Now welcome back. Now make we start today. Talk about some of the fundamental classes where we need for Bootstrap 5. So I go like thank everybody wey don dey follow me, everybody wey don dey subscribe, everybody. You guys are the best. But make una no forget, we get group for una to take join our community for Telegram. We're gonna post different things. We're gonna give una updates. We're gonna even dey share jobs with una. So make una become a part of this community, because as we start to dey build am, now go dey grow with us as we dey grow also. For the last video, we don already see say we fit add one small classes to our Bootstrap. For us to dey know the remaining classes wey we go need to dey work with. So e go just make sense make we dey go this site, this getbootstrap.com. Now here we go dey try dey read about the Bootstrap from the documentation. Documentation na the place where we say na like the manual of any programming language or any coding tool or anything like that. Now what we dey call documentation. So now the idea of the people wey write this Bootstrap, so wetin dey think when they create this Bootstrap. Now that time we go dey use documentation. So in case I talk something where you don't forget, always they come the documentation to come read wetin e be. If you click here to read the docs, or if you just click here, which now wetin I dey always do. So we just click here for this doc for here. Once you click am, you go see say you get this documentation. So if you see say for this side here, you get this menu, you go to give us all the sections where we want go. So for installation and all those kind of things, using Webpack, using JavaScript, using Vite, and all those things, at that time the thing will show us. It will tell us everything where the Bootstrap team they do with this technology. Also, if you want to customize your Bootstrap, in case you want to change and you want to make Bootstrap be your own kind of Bootstrap, you fit do them also. If you know SAS and all those kind of things, you fit just customize them to your own. You fit change the colors, you fit change the options and all those kind of things. You fit change the variables, anything if you do for here. You fit check if you want to read about the breakpoints, if you don't forget breakpoints or container, how did they work, and CSS grid and all those things for Bootstrap, and waiting Bootstrap team they think when they do the Bootstrap. Now here you go come read this layout side and content also. When you want to work with images or text, or you don't forget the classes where you go need and all those things, at that time you go come to this content for here. Also Bootstrap they also help us they work faster and easier with forms. So now that time you go come still use forms, constantly do things with these forms. We will see this form control a lot, and we go see work with all these things. But you will see say all these form components here, they have to do with the form. Now special thing, including validation also. Then when you come to the components, now here with Bootstrap just help us arrange many classes where we fit use. And these classes where they arrange, they fit help us create accordion, alerts, badges, buttons, modals, and all sorts of components, cards, carousel, all these things. Instead of make we the right time on our own, we could just use Bootstrap. So you also, if you find this helper now onto say in our classes, we go to help us they arrange things, they make things they work very nicely. We call it helper classes. They help us they arrange things, they help us they set certain things. We say if we just now bang bang, it go work like magic. You know, say they put magic on, it go work sharp for us. And also if you check these utilities now even for more in-depth classes, like say you want to do work with background class, you want to work with all those kind of things, or Bootstrap shadow, all those kind of float and all those things, you fit add them. So basically what you get now, another way of writing CSS. 9 Bootstrap they give us. So we could know to stress about all these things we're going to talk about, we're going to see for here. Just know say most of these things is just CSS, where the Bootstrap team they don't help us to coordinate, they don't help us to see. Say, oh, instead of make we they write things over and over with CSS, make we they write the code 111, make we they go this documentation, just add these classes where we need, and it will help us do the code for us just by using our Bootstrap, including responsiveness and all those things. Now in Bootstrap they help us do. So already if you check here also say you know get them, if you just get the CDN download from here, if you just get the CSS from here, then add the link to the CSS, if you get this link for here. And then if you want the JavaScript too, if you get the JavaScript for here also. So make we go back into our VS Code. Now for inside my VS Code, if you look up here, you go see say I don't already clean some of this code where we get for here. I just collapse our head tag, but we get our Bootstrap where they here, where we add from the previous video. So I could just collapse them for here, the head, and then I also just collapse the JavaScript where it's supposed to be here. I just collapse them there. That's not all. So inside this body, we just get a pure body for here, and now here we could come to the right or the test our JavaScript. I say JavaScript, our Bootstrap code. Okay. So now what we want to do is say we want to go create a container. When we put something inside that container, we want make it behave, make it know they come up from that container, make that container be the papa or the parent of that element. So for example, let us say I want to add a text. So make we just say we want a H1. So I go say H1, and this H1, I want to just give them a text. A text where go just tell us say hello world as always, right? So we go say hello world. Now So now you know, say we get this H1 for here. But what if we want to arrange this H1 for the center? What if we want to put them inside something? Then at that time, when we want to put them inside the container. So that container where we need now could be the parent of our text where we work with. You understand? So as it be the parent, how we go take do am? Well, you go just need to write a container. So you go say you want a div, and make I use image for here, okay? Just so that we know, because now VS Code do they use, right? So I could just say I want a div with a class of container. And if I do it like this and I press tab, you go see say we get a div with a class of con. Aha, you see my spelling error for there? Container. Now, if I miss that spelling, VS Code or even Bootstrap, you no go even understand what they do. Now, make we make this div of container, make them the parent of the H1, right? So we go make the H1 in Pidgin. So we go push that div inside there, and then we go just press save. Now, if I press save, and I say make we enter into our browser, I go need to just run this live server where I don't already install, which is another plugin. We install them for another video. So I go just click them. And once I click them, then we go into my browser. I first say now we get this hello world for here. So now this hello world, now we get the way this container they work. What if say I want to make this container, make it full, like make it reach this side for here, make it get this space around here. You see this big space where you put for here, you also go give me the same space for here on the left side and on the right side. You understand? So then I'm waiting Bootstrap team the help us they do. So we don't want them like that. But what if say we want make this div now, this container, make it spread, reach this side? You understand? What if we get that kind of design where we say we want make this div spread come here? At that time we can use the fluid container. So make we go back our code. And then make we add the fluid. So we just want a container dash fluid. So we'll say dash fluid. And if I press save for there and go back our VS Code or our browser, you can see now we get fluid for there. So make I go back our VS Code. So you get another very, very important concept we have to like discuss. You get one very, very important concept. That concept now the Bootstrap grid system. Now we call it the grid system. Now just where we say Bootstrap they arrange in layout. So you get the way Bootstrap layout, they always work for us. Where we say it go day more responsive. Where we say the code it go day easier for us to write. You don't understand. So the best way we say we go like to arrange our code. Now that time we use the Bootstrap grid. Now the Bootstrap team, now them you say, okay, make we use CSS Flexbox, make we form these classes. Maybe say if you use these classes, it will help these people, it will help me, it will help you to the write Flexbox code quick, fast, just by using classes. So make we try to see some of the use cases or how we go even take add or interact with these Bootstrap grid classes when we get so. So to get every Bootstrap grid, just know say we go need to create a row, and that row now the way the column go, now where the column go they live, now the way the column go they behave inside the row, right? So make me see waiting this row be and waiting this column be. So make I go here, and then make we just say we want a class of row. So we go say class of row, WROW. And once we talk and say we want this row, Bootstrap now go know say, okay, we they expect a column. Always know say now so Bootstrap row they work. Once you do row, you must do column. You must, because they find the child element or the next child element. You fit put H1. I always not say when you the code, you feel when you don't learn how to code, you feel they break the rules here and there. But the idea is say whenever you write a row, or if you want to create a column, just know say you need a row as a parent. And whenever you want to write a row, whenever you write row, just know say you suppose put column under. You understand? So anytime you know if you create just row on your own, if you do like that, you're going to see some kinds of things where you know expect to see. So make we create this row. And then make we say for inside this row, when we get for here, this is our row. So make we say we want a column inside. Then we'll go inside that div, right? Inside this div of row, we want a column inside. So I go say I want a class of col. That col just means say I want column. Now I go just do say I want tab, and once I do that tab, I will add any code. You see, say I don't add any text here. Even this our text, I don't add them for here. Now inside this row, this column, now I go come need to add any text that I want for here. So I go say I want a paragraph, right? And this paragraph, I go say make it be column. That's column 1. Now, if I talk this column 1 for here, this is not just text. No be Bootstrap be this one, right? This is not just ordinary text. So now, if I come press save, you go see say we get this text inside this column. But not be waiting we want. We still want where they say Bootstrap, because if I do it like this now and I press save, Bootstrap now go they handle the way all the columns go they behave. Meaning say if I show you, if we say we want more columns, just know say every column, the highest amount of column for any row, this column wey dey inside here, the highest amount na 12, right? So just know say na only 12 columns fit dey each row. You understand? So you go come say, make I show you an example. Make I say we want create 12 columns for here now. So I could just say I want 12 columns. Actually, make I use image writer. So I go say I want column, I want a class rather, column, and this column I want make it get a p tag, and I want make this p tag say column. So I go say I want make it give me a text of column, and then I want make it be any number. Don't worry about this code right there, right? If you don't know. And then I go say make it give me from number 1 to 2. I go say make it draw times 12. So I go say make it draw 12 times. And if I press tab, it will help me create. Oh, sorry. If I press tab for here, like I go there, like I say I want to do for here. So I want 12 columns rather. So I go say 12 columns we get speaking of that. So I go say times 12. And we could go there and I could just email them out. So already we get 12 columns, and all of them get from number 1 to number 12. Yeah, we get from number 1 to number 12. So if we come on this first one. Now, don't worry about emit. Don't worry about emit. If you know to know about emit, no worry. We're going to do video one day about emit. So there's not just shortcut way for me to the right. Instead of writing one by one, I just use emit to do a quick, sharp for them. So just going to say every column, every column for inside our row where we work with for here. This is say this row now the parent make a collapse and for now. You say this row for here now. Now they hold all our column, and now only 12 now if we reach for here. Only 1 to 12. So if I save them and I say make we go back into our browser, make us see what we get. You just say now we get this 12 column for here. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 12. So as you don't reach the whole page, you just say now we get just this our 12 columns where we just need. Ne? So the idea of say Bootstrap now, it go to help us, they arrange this page very well for us. It go to help us, they arrange, say, make this page, make it they show well, make it they responsive. So I could just press F12 for my keyboard for here. I go interact with the dev tool or the development tool. So this tool now we go use to check the responsiveness of our code. If you look this responsive icon for here, if I click on, it just means we fit toggle responsive mode for our VS Code. And if you come here for inside this dimension responsive, you fit change down to any device where you want. If you want to see the example, you understand. So we go see play around with that eventually. Now make we come here for inside this responsive, make sure say they this responsive tick, not be the phones, but responsive. Then you come here. So for here, I think they reduce the size and they see the impact of within the size be. So I think just they reduce the size for here. You just say it still look nice, Very soon it will start to drop. All these text, all these columns, they don't go meet each other. You see, say now 12 done they drop for here at this size where we work with for here. This is not the size, not the width with this, and not the height of our page with that. So if I say make they drop this is say they drop at this pixels, this much pixels 3. And if I leave them here for up to 260 pixels, if you see say now so the thing they arrange for any screen will be 260 pixels. So if you want to know about where the breakpoints, where to be the column for here and breakpoints for Bootstrap of every Bootstrap column and all that, you can always check the documentation for our Bootstrap project. So you could just come here for inside the documentation, and then you could come the layout, because now layouts will work with, right? Now here you go to learn more about the breakpoints. So you can just click breakpoints, and for inside here, you go feel read more about the breakpoints. So you see say these breakpoints here, now waiting them be when the screen dimension, if you reach a certain place, now there it go stop for there. So make we go back VS Code. To better understand how the columns they work, I would like make we explore some of the options where we get for our column class like this. Because class, every column class, as we do it like this, now Bootstrap, now they determine the width. Now Bootstrap, now go they decide on how the width when they behave. So how the width of this our column go they behave, how the size of our column go be. Now Bootstrap go set them to automatic for us normally if we don't put any other thing. But normally the way we supposed to do them, now say we want column dash, and then we want assign other things to them. So what do we want assign? Let's say this column 1, we want assign them to column hyphen rather, because not be dash, now hyphen be that. So we could just say this dash or hyphen, make we say now column SM. Remember, say if you look the documentation, you go see say we get different screen sizes, right? So if we save this code now and we go into the documentation, for example, make we go back to documentation. You just say for the documentation, you get these sizes where we write, these available breakpoints where they use. So, but you just say we get this class infix, and here, this place. So this class infix now we they work with, say, this SM for all of Bootstrap, anything Bootstrap 5. we get these classes where we get for here. So anything for extra small screen size, which na phone screen or all those screens where we say it dey less than 576 pixels, we no go just apply anything for them. So you could just dey work on your own. You could just leave Bootstrap, make it a handle that kind of breakpoint for us. But where we say the screen size now, you don't dey greater than or equals to this 576 pixels. When it dey greater than or equals to 576 pixels, at that time we dey call am the SM or the small breakpoint. So it is very important to dey know when be your SM and when no be your SM and when be your MD, which na medium and which na 768 pixels, or is greater than that, or it dey equal to am. That na how it dey work. And also the list goes on and on from this 992 pixels where we say it go dey increase up to this one wey dey here. Now if we dey come from Boostrap 4 or Boostrap 5, I believe, Boostrap 3, you go see say this class of XXL, you know, dey. So wherever we dey write this XXL, now for only for Boostrap 5, we start to dey write. Now they introduce this extra large for XXL, which na screen size wey dey greater than or equals to 1400 pixels. So even if you check this one, this extra large, now for Boostrap 4 and Boostrap 3, you see they use that time na so screen size they be. But thank God we don't dey use bigger screens now, and Bootstrap team, they don't help us to add those classes for them. So make we go back into our VS Code and make we try to use this SM, ND, LG, LX, you know, make we start to work with all those things. So make we go back to VS Code. For inside the VS Code now, what we want to say, we want to add those SM and LG and all that for this side. The SM, which they control the breakpoint, we want to say for SM, then for small screen, make this column now. Remember, say I tell you, say the column only will be from 1 to 12. So we go say, okay, we'll make this column now. Instead of by default, it go be column 1, column 1, column 1, right? Because we write 12 columns for here. We go say, okay, now make this column now, make it just be column -2. Now, if I don't -2, it go be say this column 1 now, this column 1 where I write for here, it go take two complete column out of the 12. So 12 minus 2, it go be 10. We go get left. So that means say we go need 12 and we go need 10 elements for here. We go need common 2 because that one column they take these 2 columns where we get for here. If I save them now, you no go like the result we go see. So make we save them first, make we see what we get. So if I say, okay, now this column on small screen, make it take 2 column space of this our complete row, the parent element where we get for here. So if I save them, make we go back to our VS Code, or make we go back to browser. I keep saying VS Code. Then make we enter inside back our example. So if you see say for this small screen where we work for here, SM screen, this one, it don't take 2 columns out for here. Actually, it's supposed to be 2, but because we get all these other elements for here, then now they get the error like that. So make we just increase and increase. You see say now we get our 2 columns, but now look the size for here is go can change to 1 1 once we move on like that. So remember, we did look for 576. Now waiting we define 576 pixels, but right now we get 574. If I see 75, once I hit 576, you go see the column, it don't change. So we get this for inside our what? We get this for inside equals to or greater than 576. So the SM class can't kick in. The SM class, it don't enter. So if we say, okay, oh, now I make this SM class, make it they do something else. So make it if you say, okay, when you reach this class and this size, make it big, make it take 2 columns, make it take 3 columns, make it do whatever amount of columns. So make I just come on all these 12 columns. And then make we work with 3 columns instead. So make we go back our VS Code. And for inside our VS Code, make we say we want clear all these other ones, right? So we go say from number 12, because we don't even need, they take 2 columns already. So we go just clean everything and then we go just leave them up to number 3, or to column 3 rather. So the 3rd column, and then make we start to work with these 3 for here. So these 3 columns where we get for here, what do we want to do with them? Well, what we want to say, we go like maybe say, when the column, you don't reach a certain amount, make they behave in different ways. For example, we want to say, okay, when you reach small screen, then make this 2nd column too, make it be another thing, make it be another size. So if you just say column dash SM dash or hyphen, and make we say this column SM, make it take, instead of 2, make we say, make it take 6 even. all right, because we dey try add up all the classes wey we get for here. Remember say the highest amount of all the total amounts of rows inside of columns, all the total amount of columns wey suppose dey inside a row na 12. So all these numbers wey we dey count, e na just say e dey take the amount of space 12 inside the 12 you don minus 2, inside the remaining 12 I don minus, inside the remaining 10 wey we go get from inside this 12 from here we don minus 6. So that means say we go dey left with only 4 left, right? Because 10 minus 6 e go give us 4. So we go come say no worry about the math, this math na simple 1 plus 1 math, no worry. So you go just say this na SM, and for small screen dem go say okay, for any small screen make e be 4. Sorry, say 5, make it be 4, right? So what you get if you add all this number for here, 4 plus 6, 10, 10 plus 2, 12. So that 10 plus 2, 12. Now they give us our 12 grid and 12 line grid. Now this will be any number between, but just make sure say all these numbers, the in total, it no suppose pass 12. All the numbers, if it be less than that, but it no fit pass 12, right? Just know say that number of total, all these numbers that they see here, they no fit pass 12. So make we save this thing and make we open back inside our browser, because what we get, and you see say now we get our code, they behave in a different way, our example. Okay, so if I come here for this first column, if you look this my dev tool for here, it is very important to understand how your dev tool they work. If you understand your dev tool, you go dey much easier for you to work with Boostrap code where they work with for here. So if you come here, if I click this SM2, you go see say now our column be that. Now this SM2 or this column SM2, you go see say, or make I say 20% out of 100% of the width of this our row where we they work with for here. So this now just make we just call it like that, 2 points or 2%. And this one will be like I said 2 points or 20%, and this one will be like 60%, and of course this one will be like 40% of the entire 100% where they work with for this row here. And also they get their own margins. You see the margins, they get margins for, if you check the main code for Bootstrap code here, you go see say get your own margins. So if you check here, you go see say each make I do one for here, each column they get their own margins, but they use this complex thing to they calculate the size, which we suppose do, but because Bootstrap team they love us so much, they come down for us. So if you do for free, thank God, if you make site fast. So if we look here, you go see say this one, this column, this middle column will be column SM6. Now take the highest amount of all the columns where they here. So how we fit even break these two together? If we say okay, we get column 6, what I for like doing, I say I want to make this middle one make it large pass, then make these two make them they equal, right? I want to make the two make them they equal. So I go just click here. I go click this two, and then if you just change this two, if I want to do that, I could just come for the dev tool even, and I could just say, okay, make this dev tool, make it change down to 3, right? And then I could say, okay, we want column 3. Now, if you do column 3, they say it don't come out, make I come here. Because you see, it don't come out, you see, it don't come out the remaining children, it don't break them. So they know they want roll again. They know they want straight line like this. They know they like this again. You don't break this third one. Why? Because the class where we define it passed 12. So if you come here, you go see so you get 3 plus 6, which suppose give us 9, and then we can add 4 again on top of. Of course, we don't fumble for here. You know, go give us 12. So that's why we need to check the numbers, and also they use your dev tool to understand which code you they write for here. So as you don't change them to 3 for here, right? We want also change them from 4 to 3, so that we go balance the grid where they here and go get just 12 columns for inside this our grid. So for inside this our row. So if I click on or press enter for here, you go see say now we get 3, and all of them did the same line. So you see say this line for here, make I come here, make I close this one. You see say this one and this one are the same size. If I come here, you go see say 2 of them be exactly the same size. So on small screen, we want SM, that's the column will be SM for small screen, because like SM we write anything will be small screen, it go be like this. So from small screen and above, now so it go behave. So if I increase her, you know, see it go always they behave the same way, equal size, but we're going to get this middle one, we go wide pass. And then if we say, okay, now we want to reduce the size. If I drop and they look here, make they look here, you see here now the dimension of this. If I say, okay, I want to drop the size, once it hits that pixel of 5, 6, 7, was it? Make we check that pixel. Once it hit that pixel of 5, 7, 6, it go come enter that code. We go fire the code where we suppose fire. So make we drop them. So once I did 575, bam, the screen, it could drop everything for bottom. So that just means say for mobile screens, make them nicer. Because responsive design, I want to say if people visit your web app or your website or anything, if they visit them on their screens, you want make it responsive. You want make it look nice on both screens. So normally our designers go do the design for us for mobile screen. They go do the design for us for tablet. They do design for us, which usually not the same. And then they go come do the desktop screen, which now this layout where we get for here. So the SM3 just means say where we they add for other our code, say from small screen, make this row where we get, make it they behave like this from small screen and small screen only. We fit even change them. So I can just go back VS Code for here. Inside this our VS Code, what's I for like to say from now on, we fit even add more classes for here. So we go say for small screen, make it behave like this. We want make all the small screens where they work with, maybe they carry this kind of style, maybe they behave like this, maybe they give us this 2 column and this 12 column and this 4 column and this 6 column and this 4 column space. But if we want to add more for like different screen sizes, remember say we get MD, we get LG, we get LX and XLR and all those things. So now here we go add them just beside each other. You know, go spoil Bootstrap. So if you just say, okay, so now from Bootstrap, whenever we did medium screen, so you go say column, and you go say this column you want do dash. Remember to give a space because we dey add other classes. Don't join the class together like this, so Bootstrap no go understand them. Even CSS you no go understand them. So do it like this. Say you want this kind class, so you go say column, and then you go say now you want MD, then a medium screen size, and then you want make this medium screen size make it come be 6. Now, if you don't do sorry, not 61. If you don't down for that 6, you anytime when the screen don't pass this size, this don't reach this MD or this screen size of MD, it go or it pass am, it go take 6 of this row. Only when we don't reach medium screen, I go do am for this last third column. So we go say make this one be column, not so long column, and then we go say column. Make we change this MD to LG. So we say LG, or yeah, make we say LG. And then we want to make this one be 6 whenever it be in own LG. So make we see what Bootstrap could do with this kind code. So remember, the code where we try talk, we say for anytime we do small screen, take 2. Anytime we do small screen or you pass small screen, take 6 for here. Anytime you do small screen or pass small screen, take 4 for here. But anytime when you do large screen, take 6 for here. But anytime when this column 1 where they here, make it when you do medium screen and above, make it take 6 also. So we can see the way Bootstrap could behave. So if we save the code and then we come back into our example for here, we could go to browser, we could see what Bootstrap could help us do for you. So our Bootstrap don't they help us, they show us say now, because we don't define the code like this, make I go here, close this one, because we don't define the code like this, for this size, this screen size, where we did like this, so this screen size, now the small screen. So we go say, okay, because we did the small screen, make we increase and remember say, medium size for here now 768 pixels. So whenever we reach 768 pixels for here, width for here, now that time the size will change again. So make we say medium. Remember I said we want to make this number one, make it big now. Make it big like this one. Now we define it. So we go say, okay, we don't increase, and you see say now we don't reach 700 and what? 768 pixels. But here we just make I do 768, 68. So whenever we did the 768 pixels, it go day like this. But if we just drop out, it don't arrange itself based on a day greater than, right, or equals to 576 pixels, which now the SM. Now you don't need too much disturb yourself about this pixel greater than SN, all this one. Just know say that's why Bootstrap team help us to SM, MD, LG, and XL and XXL. So instead of make they decide the number and all those things we want to do, just use this shortcut code, say SM, MD, and for small screen, medium screen, big screen, and large screen. You fit define them one by one, or if you let Bootstrap to they do them for you. So like we did for this one now, you just say, okay, make we do them one by one, make we do them one by one. Once we hit that range now of 568, yeah. Now that time the thing will start to break the code for us. So make we see what 568 they do. So this 568 mega pixels here. If you see our media query for CSS, it don't enter for here. Now this pixel for here, see as they behave. We can't define this column MD6 for here, which now 50% of waiting the row be. So now 50% by 50%. So now they cater again for the other row. But because we can't even define, say we want to make this 6 LG, make this one big, that's why I can't calculate and say, oh, All right, you get 6 for here, you get 6 for here. Down at 12 now, then you can't throw away this one for here. So always they know how they do your bootstrap code. Always they find out, say, shey they make such mistakes, say your rows they behave anyhow. No be everything you're going to put inside rows and column, of course, or containers, but now good idea for you to they know those things. So for inside my VS Code, make we say we now want to fix this code. And then we want to say, okay, at LG, just change your class for us now. Then we go say, okay, oh, now we want to define this one LG2. We want to define this one class. We go say column. And make we say for LG screen will behave in a different kind of way. Now LG2, make we say we want to make this even be LG3. It no matter, because if we add this 2, it will be 9, 9, and then we even get -1 say for +1. Just make we leave them at 11 for now at this large screen. Make we leave and say all the divs or all the columns where they here. If they add all these columns for here, it will only reach 11 columns where we try target for here. So make we go back into our browser. I just say now for inside our browser, we don't get everything we define. So the code don't arrange itself for inside this row. How? Well, simply because we define them for here. So we talk say, okay, for LG screen, make this size small, for big LG screen, for this column, make it just be 3, and just 3 for here. Then the remaining, make them just be this column for here. You understand? Now, so we go take the definer, and because we miss 1, that's why we get that excess space for here. So if you use that trick now to design everything, of course, go spoil our code. So if I say make I small, you see say now it don't break. But you see say once I make them big, it don't arrange itself. You see I'm saying it don't arrange itself again. So now all those tricks we go to use to arrange our bush. I purposely leave them like this, say make it get 11. Make I show you say if it still work. Because normally, what we want now, say we want assign them to, let's just say if this one could be 12, go be 3, we could just make them 12 so that it could be equals to the exact same width. So if you check out like this now, you will see say now we get this full width. I don't know if you see the width for that. You can see say this third one now, it don't spread, reach the end for here. But if I put them for 3, or if I put them for 3 for here, which now 11, which you fit do, no worry. If you still do that, it's not illegal, but it just depends on your style, where you want to style your code. At that time, you can't get this width of this amount. You go get more than 30% of this amount, this width we define. So always keep that in mind. I know say this section don't do very long, so make we move on to other sections we have for like discuss. And then make we write some code we go help us make even this our own CSS look better. So make I first increase the size of this our div for here. One can add some kind, I want to talk now. One can add some kind typography or some kind things. Maybe say when we add them to this our bootstrap, it's going to make all our kind styling and text and all that. It's going to make them fresh, it's going to make them small, it's going to make them make sense, it's going to make them big, it's going to make them small. Now I don't cover all of them, but I will just show you say it get the way bootstrap just because of saying we they write even just a class. Bootstrap go to help us to they write the right code. So by default, every bootstrap class they behave in a certain kind of way. You understand? So make we see some examples for here. Bootstrap get H1, different types of H1. You get H1, H1, H1. So I could just say I want 4, 5 H1s, right? So I could just say each H1, H2. Now VS Code they help me they auto rename this closing tag for here. So remember saying that one today. Now VS Code they help me do that. So now as we don't do them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for here, because for HTML we only get from H1 to H6, right? So now as we done like this, if I say make I save and make we preview the code, you can see say our code now will show us different sizes and different style. Remember say we don't add any CSS. Remember that we never add any CSS to this our code. As you say now, we get this H1, hello world, hello world, hello world. For Bootstrap format, we get these different hello worlds for here. And then for inside our VS Code, I for like even erase all these other ones. Make we just clear all this other code for here. Make we leave this one. And for inside this our paragraph here, make we just name this paragraph H1 for here. So to name something or to activate our Bootstrap, we go need to say we want to do a class. So I could just say we want a class. And this class, what you want to assign them? Well, we want to assign them to a class of H1. So if you just say H1, and it will give me that class for them. So make I change this class 2 to H2. And the second one, so I say class, I want H2, and then make we just say we want this one also to be like, make we say H3, right? So we say class, we'll assign them to H3. Now, if I press save, it will resemble exactly the same H1, H2, H3 where we get before. If I press save, remember I said this now paragraph tag, paragraph text, no be H1, no be heading, text with this, no be heading tags with this, now paragraph tags with this. So if I press save and we say make we go back into our browser, we could see what we get. You see, say now we get each one small, each one as a H1, and we can't get the H2, and we can't get the H3 for here. So what's again we fit do with this our Bootstrap? Well, Bootstrap gives us a lot of very helpful classes. I don't know if you explain all of them, but just want to say some of them self, they even they help us to they add colors. They help us, they do quick colors. Remember, say we never even add color for inside this our Bootstrap when they work with, right? So just to say sometimes Bootstrap we go they want to they add our own default Bootstrap color. Sometimes if you even change the colors, but Bootstrap they give us some very interesting colors. They give us like different text for different colors. If you even get, they even give us background colors also where we say if you work with for our Bootstrap. So make we see some examples of these colors where we they work, where we feel work with for Bootstrap. So if I go back into my VS Code for here, now for inside this VS Code, what we want to do is say we want to add some kind colors to this our elements where we work with. So of course, now we don't see most of those texts where we don't they work with, but it get another list of colors. So make we say we want to go back into the documentation, make we see a list of all VS Code colors, all Bootstrap colors where we get for here. So we'll just come back into the documentation, then go come colors. Now, if you come colors for here, you go see say Bootstrap don't give us by default these colors where you see here. They don't give us blue, they don't give us gray, they don't give us success, they don't give us danger or red, and they don't give us warning, info, light, and dark. Now, all these classes where they see here, or the names of these variables or colors where they see here, they get different names. So, for example, primary, it means say now blue for Bootstrap. Whenever you say primary, anything, text primary, bottleneck primary, background primary, it go be blue immediately. If you say you want background danger, text danger, shadow danger, anything danger you want, it go be red. If you say you want a warning, anything warning, it go be yellow. If also you say you want a success, it just means say now green you define. So that are the only thing where you just need to know about Bootstrap colors. Meaning say once you just add this class, it say class of whatever element you define, hyphen or dash, then you go put the color code, which now for Bootstrap, success, secondary, primary, danger, warning, info, dark or light. It go do that exact thing for you. So dark will be black, and of course light will be white. Now these colors where we get by default for the Bootstrap theme, or for waiting Bootstrap they give us by default for here. And then we could go back VS Code. And for inside our VS Code now, make we say we want to add a text, and we want to make this text now, make it get, since we don't know all the code colors where we want, we go say, okay, we want to make this text, make it get a class or this H1, since not text, right? So we go say we want a class, remember now Bootstrap we define, but we want to find text. And which text we define? We define text warning. So in other words, we define a yellow heading for here, yellow hello world. Remember saying that text warning yellow, right? So we go say text warning, and if I press save for there, it's supposed to give us a yellow text for there. So if we enter back into our browser, you go see say we get that yellow text for there for the hello world for our heading. Now if we go back into our VS Code, make we say we want change the color of this our H1 for now, and make we say we want make this H1 make it carry another color, like say make it carry a background color, for example. So if you just say okay, for here we want a background. So for Bootstrap, if you want sign boost, if you want to do background, you go say BG, right? And then that BG you go do hyphen. And once you do hyphen, you go come give them any color where you want. So a lot of times you go to do this hyphen or dash many times for your Bootstrap. Just know say now what you go to do. It's a way of knowing how to they name your class so that your browser will know when they talk about your own class or Bootstrap class. That's not the only reason why we they use all this dash dash. If you be doing anything, we not go work. But if you want to use Bootstrap, you must do it like this. So BG, the class of BG, and then we want another color. So which color we want for this H1? Well, make we say we want to make this background color for this side, for this column. Actually, what I for like to say, I want to change the background color of the column. So I go say, okay, because we did the text now, I go say, okay, make we do this background color for here. So I go say BG, give me a class of BG dash, and I go say I want to make it the background color, make it be primary for now. So I go say primary, which means we want blue bar. So I go say primary, and it will give me that blue text for there. But if I say, okay, if I get blue text and I don't want to make this text now, if I get blue background, sorry, for here, then I this BG primary, and I don't want to make this text now, make it be black. I want to make it be white for me now. So how I go take that? I go just come inside this H1 class where we just add for there for inside the class column, and I go add another class. So I go say text, because remember saying that text we work with. So I go say text light. I'll say light, right? Once I say light and I press save, it's supposed to give me a blue background with a white text. So make we open our browser, make we see whether it even work for us. So you can see we get blue background and we get white text inside now. So you don't get the idea. So we could go back our VS Code and make we add some more text. Like for example, I would like make this our middle text for here. This our middle column, the one we get this LG4. I would like make it just carry a green background. So how we go do am? I go say I want BG dash or hyphen. Then I go say I want some. Yes. And if I save am, I suppose get a green background. But we're not going to finish there. What we want to do again be say we want to use inheritance. That means say the parent element go define a class. And when you define a class or how the class could be, the children element, or this one, in this case, this P tag here, it go come inherit that column, that style, that class. Bootstrap 2, they allow us to do like that. So if you just say, what we want to say, if we want to make this P, make it also collect a. If you do, if I for even write down for here, but I just want to show and say if you even still write down for inside the parent element in terms of the text, how we want to make the text they behave. So I could just say text dash, then make it be warning. So you go get a green background with a yellow text. Now what do they expect for this second column, this middle column where we get for here. So if we save them, make we see the result where we get. And you see say now it don't change to a green background with a yellow text inside, just like this one here. Same color, no worry about the shade. Other one, Bootstrap already arrange them for us. So we could try even do this last one for here. Make we see whether if you work up something, right? So we could go back into our VS Code. And for inside our VS Code, make we just say, I go like a red background, so I could say BG danger. And this red background, then I go say make the text for inside here. Make we even still use this other one as example. So I could just say I want make the class for here, just to show you say, just like we know down for here, if you do anything we want for inside this one too. So inside this our H3 where we get for here, or H3 class, beside down also what we want. And I say we want make the text they muted. Now muted now like grayish text like this. Now text we say if you make them a bit gray, it go just they slightly gray small for us. Now so that muted text they work for us. So if I press save and I say make we enter back into our browser, make we see what we get. And you see say now we get this red background with a grayish looking text for here. Of course, the contrast no day here much, but you get the point. So if you style anything just by using those classes, and of course, you know say that Bootstrap they work with, right? So it they 100% responsive, 100% responsive, not if you make an unresponsive as they here like this. So make we know how we they work with our class and column. And remember, say for inside here, how we they use these columns. So if I come back into our VS Code, for example, and make we just go through the code again. If you just say text white. Another thing we do with Bootstrap is say we just even arrange the text, make it the center. So for example, a very good use case, we say, what if I want to make all the text for here, let it just the center. I believe say if I move them even up to the grandparents, which are this row, if I look into my browser, you can see say we just get this text for here, right? It just did this edge and it did this edge. And it did this edge. What we want now, say we want try give all the text and also these ones. You see, say it did the left side of every box, it did the left side. But what we want by default now, left today, what we want to say we want to make all the text and make it come sit for the center. But we don't want to make it affect this one. We only want to make it affect our column. So we go first try inherit them, make I see if it work. And if it doesn't work, it no matter. We go see use them still add for here and make we see what if it happen. So make we go because this computer thing, it get a CB. And then for inside our VS Code, make we say we want a class of text dash center. Make we check into our browser again, make we see whether it work. And you see say now it don't carry all our text put for the center, text center, text center, text center. And all of them be H1, and they carry their colors as they're supposed to carry. And just inside this row, now this text center they affect. Remember, say they affect this top here, it only affect this row for here. So these now some of the helper classes where we work with for Bootstrap. Make we look even waiting if we do with paddings and waiting if we even do with the margins. So make we go back into our VS Code. And for inside this VS Code like this, so make we say we want to add some margin and padding to this our H1 where we get for here, right? Make we say we want to add some margin. So make I say, okay, the margin where we defined, now say we want to make space there for the top and for the bottom. So if you remember that our margin and padding video, remember the way margins and paddings they work. Top, bottom, left, right? So now what we will also do for Bootstrap, we get that. Just that instead of writing margin, this, padding, that for Bootstrap, we will just write down with simple letters. So to write padding for Bootstrap, we will just say we want a padding, something. So if you say we want padding either from 1 to, I believe it's about padding 5. So if you just say we get that much padding. But if you don't understand or if this doesn't make sense, we feel always refer back to the documentation. Maybe we use padding 3 for now. Excuse, make we use padding 3 and then make we see what we they do with padding 3. And padding 3 just means say this P3, P-3 or P-3, it just means say we want padding all around our component or all around our element. This H1, we want padding around them, all around this hello world. Now, we just want that padding. Make we save them and make we go back into the browser. And if you say now we get this padding space, unlike before, we get this padding for here. This padding where this is here, make I open up the dev tool, make we see say we get a padding. And if you say now for inside this our H1 here, we get a padding. If you check them here, you go see we get this padding of 1 rem. Likewise, if you just pump the belay of say for waiting I want, if you just pump the belay from 3 to 4, I believe 5, make we do 5. So we'll see if now 5 even did there. And then if I do 5, you see say now it don't give us this much padding. If I put the mouse on top and go see say it don't give us that much padding for inside them. If we check the documentation, so if you say if we come here, also if you use this search box, which is very, very helpful to use, they learn to use your search box. So if you just say padding, and if you search for padding, Bootstrap will give you all the information where you find on margins and paddings. So if you just click that padding and it will give us any information where we find. If you read everything where we define. Now, because say we get this our padding all around our box for here, this our H1. What if say we not just want the padding, make the padding just day for only the top and the bottom. We don't make padding day the left and we don't make padding day the right side. I'm going to take do am for Bootstrap. The last time we can use the PY or the PX. So waiting be X and waiting be Y for Bootstrap. Y na top to bottom and X now for left to right. So how we want to take do am for our Bootstrap? Make we go back into our VS Code and then make we see how we could do am. So if I go VS Code and I say, okay, for inside this VS Code, I could just say make padding the only the Y top and the bottom. So I could say make it just the only the top and the bottom. Then I could just define even the X and Y for another side. So I could just say I want to make the padding and I want to make the PX that are in the X and Y direction. So you go see say now we go add padding for the sides, but we want to make it big where so I go put that for 5. Now if I save them and I say okay, make we go back into our browser, make we see whether our padding will work the way we want to make it work. You go see say now we get this padding for here, but we get more space. I don't know if you see how make I open up my dev tool, F12, and then you go see say now for inside this our padding for here, our H1, you go see say now we get bigger padding. Now we get this padding for here. You just say the padding, even though by default Bootstrap they give us small space, but you just say now we get our own H1 where they give us less padding at the top and bottom, and then they give us more padding at the left and right. Then I'm waiting PX B for our Bootstrap. So we can go back into the code. So now make we say we want to give a margin. Or make we say we want to give margin for the top, but we don't want to give margin for the bottom. How we go take do am? Well, just like we did our margin also for our margin for the CSS side of the video, we will also do margin. So we'll say M for margin, and then we'll say we want to make the margin day top. So we'll say MT, and then once we say margin top, we could need give them the number from 1 to 5. So if you just say, okay, we want to make the margin, make we give them 4 for this case. So we'll say make the margin for the top, only the top, make it be 4. As a matter of fact, if you even say we don't want margin at all, but make we first save them. Then if you don't want margin at all, if you just say bottom, which now MB, and then we go say we want to set them to 0. Say we don't want any margin at all because I believe say Bootstrap could already add margin for us by default. So go say okay, for this one we don't want any margin at all. Then our MB, or for the bottom, if we go say margin 0 or MB margin bottom 0. You understand? But if you say we just want only margin, at that time we go use just M. But we don't want that. What we want now, say make the margin for the top, make it be 4, but for the bottom, make no margin there at all. So we go press save. And if you say now we get this our margin like this. So we get the margin, we get the margin for the top. If you check out, you can see say we get the margin for the top, then that red line we did there for the very top, the margin top MT 4. Then at this text for here, then at this class for here. And we also get this MB0 for here, which now we don't want any margin for the bottom for here at all. But the reason why I see that space now the padding. So the PY in the Y axis now 3, So we dey get that space between the text and the small space here wey dey here before that other one. We get the py text for there. And also for the y-axis, we dey get the for the x-axis, we dey get the px5 for the size like this. And also likewise, we fit also work with the px, we fit even work with the margin x also. So if we go talk there, say maybe we fit down for the dev tool, make it just down for quickly. So if you just say one mx, and this margin x, we want just maybe set them to 5. So I could just say mx 5. If I set them to 5 like this, you go see say it go push us, it go give us a margin on the sides, on the x-axis, standard on the size. You understand? So if I press down, you go see say now the text don't move and our text don't get that color. So make even give them a color. Make we say we want bg dash. Make we just set them to make I see dark. And if I press, I'm supposed to give me a dark text and a yellow text with dark background. So like I just say, right. So now we get just like that, waiting we want. So we get all our code where they work for us just from writing only the simple lines of classes into our Bootstrap where we work with for here. So, but for now, that's all we need to learn. I will see you now for the next video. Thank you.